All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to this live where we're going to discuss how to enroll coaching clients for coaches who are coming into this without a lot or any sales experience. And I'd like to welcome our wonderful participant, Alla, who is a learning architect at Miro in Amsterdam. And she also runs her coaching practice as a leadership coach. Welcome, Alla.
Hi everyone. Thanks, Catherine. Super happy and excited to be here.
Wonderful. Alla was a participant of the Abundant Coach Accelerator program, and the reason I wanted her to speak about this topic because when we met in our enrollment process, Alla was really, really doubting herself if selling coaching is for her because it's just not something as you don't have a lot of sales background, so whether this is something that she could do. And I just saw this amazing transformation from this doubt into such a empowered state of confidence, and eventually signing up more and more clients into your practice, and evolving it in what it is today. So congrats, Alla. And would you mind just sharing a little bit more about yourself and about your journey with this?
Sure. Thanks for the intro, and definitely the confidence piece is something that is important and something that came through the program. Yeah, as you already mentioned, I work also at Miro. I'm a learning architect, and in parallel running my private coaching practice. And I coach generally leaders, and I work with leaders who are on the journey to elevate their impact, who are on the journey to clarify their vision, and also how to actually get to that vision. Predominantly in tech industry, because most of my career is spent within tech industry, but I also work with clients who are outside of the tech, and my philosophy is like leadership is leadership and coaching is coaching overall. Yeah, that's in a nutshell what I do.
Wonderful. And yeah, by the way, if there's anyone in my network in the tech sector who's interested in chatting to Alla about the work that she does and examples of how she supported leaders in the sector, feel free to connect. You will see her name on the speakers list for this event. So,
Cool. Yeah, more than happy to connect with anyone and answer questions.
yeah, absolutely. And would you just mind sharing a little bit more about where you started with this whole thing of idea what selling should look like with coaching, and where you are with it today? I'd love to hear a little bit more on
Yeah,
that
sure.
process.
I think my coaching journey generally is quite dynamic, and I would say has two parts. One is the unintentional part, because I've been doing coaching for a while now without having any intention to become a coach, professional coach, or grow into that field overall, or actually build a career or a practice. So that's what I call my unintentional. So yeah, I was doing coaching here and there on different topics, or maybe even too many topics. And with some topics, I felt like, yes, this is definitely my niche and my area, and I feel confident. And some topics were a bit of a drag. And then a second part of my coaching journey, which is more intentional, where I invested in the education, I've invested in trainings, I've been doing specific coaching hours, and at some moment in life, I decided, okay, like, where do I want to go with this? Do I want to make it more official? Do I want to really understand how to get outside of my network and start talking to clients who are a bit in a broader world, and how do I tap into that? But I didn't really have a structure. I still very much believe that, and back then I was thinking, oh, I need to have probably like business development and sales experience, and I really need to be really great at selling my proposition. And I was looking around, and someone recommended me actually to look into the your program, Catherine. And the program itself and how I've developed and sort of learned helped me to understand still that I don't have to be selling as much. And overall, once I became more intentional of who I want to work with, and this is also what the program helped me a lot with, really understanding who is my persona, who is the client, who I can really help, on who I can make more impact.
Mm-hmm.
My mindset switched completely, and then I understood that it's not really about the selling. It's really about showing what you can do, creating the value for the person, and walking them and building the journey together with them. So it's really much a partnership. And then I also really came to the realization that if it's your client, they will come to you, and if it's not your client, that they will say no, and that's totally fine. Like, I don't need to attach who I am as a coach and my value as a coach to yeses or nos, right? There was always a rejection for many different reasons. And how I build the practice is also, if I see I cannot bring the value, I'm also very honest about it. I'm not trying to sell, continue, and it's like, oh, but this or that, or I can maybe do more, or I think the very important thing is to stay truthful to who you are as a coach, to understand what are your areas of expertise, and it's important to also understand how do you feel before, during, and after the session. Does it actually bring you the fulfillment? And for me, I really felt like if I really try to sell and oversell and prove that, oh, I can have impact on everyone, in the end, my own feeling of satisfaction is not there.
Yes, it's a different energy, isn't it?
Completely.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned, like, the doubts because you felt you didn't have a lot of sales experience. On the flip side, that's what I did my whole career. I've always been in sales. Nonetheless, by the time I've actually set up my coaching practice, almost none of that experience was helpful. It was helpful to a degree of, like, yeah, I could just, message someone, get on the phone and do some talking. But it wasn't helping to enroll clients into coaching. Like, very, very few people actually signed up in that first year. So just to give people confidence, if you come from a completely different territory, from HR, from some technical side of the business, anywhere else, there is definitely, like, just the way you've learned how to coach, there is a process to learn how to enroll clients into coaching. So yeah, that doesn't have to be the kind of decision factor, like, will I be able to do that or not? Because it's just a different skill set that we can learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think potential coachees and clients, they do feel when it's a sales process or there is actual curiosity about who they are, what are they going through, why are they going through this. And we as coaches, like, we're literally trained to ask powerful questions. So the whole sort of discovery and exploration is about asking powerful questions and getting the person into the mindset of, oh, the person actually cares about me and there's genuine interest. And kind of to link it to the program as well, and like the understanding of who I want to work with, helped me to also be more genuine during the discovery calls and we can call them business development calls as well, because I knew exactly that I am really, really curious about this topic. I have the right skills and the tools to help the potential clients. So naturally, the call was not about selling. It's about understanding the chemistry, whether the styles match, whether the way of communication match, and that's what's the most important. And for me, like, I've gotten some feedback from clients like, oh, you're a really good salesperson, and I was not selling at that moment. Absolutely. And I was really reflecting on that, thinking, oh, how did it actually happen? I still truly believe I am not a good salesperson. And it truly came from the curiosity, open mind, curiosity, and just asking questions, because this is the only way to actually help the client.
Yeah, I'm giggling because I'm remembering some of your, feedback that you were bringing from actually speaking to people in sales and tech, and the amazing feedback you were given on your sales skills, and you were like, "What?"
Yeah.
Yes, and I feel it's also like a switch of a mindset that needs to happen for people who are coming from the corporate world and think that, okay, now they need to use a similar process to sell coaching, but it's not quite the same. For one, we have the freedom to say no to a client. Like, it's very hard to do that in a sales role in a company. Here, like, you literally genuinely looking for a match, like what you mentioned, all of the points that you mentioned, you're looking for those to align. And secondly, the depth of the conversation is so different. So in fact, the 2/3 of the way I structure an enrollment call, 2/3 of them is simply a coaching session, just helping someone to unpack their goals, their dreams, the challenges, clarify challenges on the way, and start building up the confidence that perhaps with the right support, this interesting dream that I have could become a reality. And I think there's still a lot of coaches out there who think that excuse my voice today, who still think that because they really dislike sales or how they perceived sales in the corporate world, that they're going to also hate selling coaching. It's just a different approach. Like, I love enrollment conversation. I look forward to. I miss the weeks when I'm too busy. I can't take any enrollment / strategy calls, because I'm there to support a person, whether they become a client or not. Usually people walk away, whatever happens, happy with the experience. And I can talk about it for ages, but like, even when someone has certain doubts and objections to the process, if you feel if we're feeling that actually this is a limiting belief, it's not a real issue that they have. This is could be a limiting belief in their mind that's stopping them from investing into coaching and investing into their personal growth. We can still use our coaching skills to shift perspective on that and to ask them powerful questions, to really inquire where this doubt's coming from. So that's why I get so excited about it, and I get very disheartened when I meet people who say, "No, I hate sales. I'm never going to be able to do that coaching."
100% agree. And also, what I'm observing, especially when I approach potential clients and we have a conversation, I can see very much a difference between people who have maybe had not such great experiences with coaches, or not necessarily know how to approach the territory. And then the first question is always, what's the price? Or what's the success rate? Or can you guarantee the results to me? And that's where the actual coaching also happens. You're kind of coaching them to the fact that, hey, this is not really about that. Let's first get to know each other. Let's first understand where you are in your journey. Understand the challenges. Maybe the program is not even for you. Let's just get to know each other and understand whether there is that match that you were talking about, Catherine. And then we can talk about everything else. And for me, I think also throughout the program, it was kind of a transformation as well. And that first sales call is extremely important as well to set the tone, because you might not end up working together right now, but you will still create that safe space for the client, that feeling of, oh, that person was actually really caring about me. We were not talking the transactional, what's the price, blah blah blah. It was actually pure curiosity to help me. And then people generally remember how you made them feel, right, as well. And if they felt that they've been sold at for an hour, this is what they're gonna remember. That's why I'm very careful with oh, I'm selling. I'm not. So I think that's something that also came to me throughout this whole experience with who I am as a coach, with my niche, with the program that you were leading, Catherine. So it's a process, but it's very important to get to that point.
Great. And the one thing you've already mentioned that is really helpful to the whole enrollment process is the I'm bashing about it, the niching part, understanding who's your ideal type of a client, at least for your core part of your coaching practice. Of course, you can be coaching anyone on any topic, but it doesn't really work. It doesn't really fit into marketing or selling coaching. You do need to have it works a lot easier signing up clients at a rate that, at a healthy rate, when you have some sort of a specialty, at least for the majority of your work. And I also see how this really feeds so well into the enrollment process, because that really does some pre-selling for you. Because if you have a specialty, like I was working specifically for majority of the time with tech leaders or leaders in tech, people who are specialists in there. They don't even want to become a manager, but people who are experienced in those companies in the sector. So how long is it going to take someone to find someone like you? They'll be like, okay, or where do I find this, coaches who work with tech leaders and who are like somewhat close to my geography or anything like that, right? It's this additional effort that people tend not to do. So just having a niche, it really does quite like a lot of pre-selling for you.
Yeah.
But if you do the other part well, so that's, that's magic. So would you mind also sharing maybe a few other things in the process that, like any other things that, someone who's listening who wants to try maybe a different approach to running the enrollment conversation, anything else that you found particularly helpful for to sign up more clients?
Yeah. I think an open mind, and it's going to sound very like, it's not groundbreaking, but you first really need to polish the fluency of those conversations. And the only way to do those to polish the fluency is to actually to do the conversations. No matter how many books you read, no matter how many trainings you do, no matter how many advices you get, you're not gonna be fluent and confident if you're not gonna try it. And there's also something that clicked for me very, very late in my coaching practice. Because again, like the unintentional part of coaching is like the people were coming to me and I was like, okay, sure, I can coach you on that. And sure, I can coach you on that, but it's not really scalable, right? If you do want to scale your practice and if you do want to expand the network and really reach out to people who you want to work yourself with, this is the only way to go. And try to coach yourself through all of the saboteurs and objectives you normally get as a coach yourself, because we also get those, and say like, oh, I'm not good enough, or it is only in your mind, really. And the person on the receiving end, no matter where the conversation goes, will always get something out of it. It's very hard to have a bad call. It's impossible to have a bad call, because it's a learning for you, it's a learning for the person, and maybe start with clients who maybe fit your sort of persona really well. So it also gives you a bit of a confidence. You know exactly what you're talking about. You know, like your questions in mind, the pieces where to tap into during that conversation, and then maybe expand it. But there's no silver bullet. Practice and practice.
Yeah, thank you. You're just such an inspiring example of that, of just, just going at it, because it's so hard also to switch that thing in your head where like we feel like it's a bad call if we have someone says no, like it feels like a rejection. And the issue that many people they have 3-5 rejections and then they just stop at that because it hurts. And I just saw you in the program just powering through it and going, all right, this happened and I got this question, what should I change in my next conversation? So keeping that like learning mindset and keeping and I guess also switching that mindset from, oh, this is a rejection, to, well, we're just not meant to work together. And if I'm getting this many people to say no, I'm that much closer to the next person saying yes. And everyone's going to have their own numbers around that, but you can't get to a yes if you're not hearing a few no's along the way. It's just like with job applications. So it's
no. And you're working with real people, and you don't know what's happening in that person's life. And the no is today, but if you made that person feel special and curious about them, it might be yes in a I don't know, a year or 6 months or whatever, or it might not be, but it is a way to really establish yourself of who you are. And like you're hearing a no, and it's not to you, it's not a no to you as a coach. There are many different reasons why there is a no, and maybe it's a good thing it's a no, because you really try and oversell and convince, and the person's heart is not into that actually, then the results from that will also probably not be very good. So looking at it from this another side of the no is also important.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that I've also found you to do so effectively in the process is really you tend to work with a lot of very left brain individuals, very analytical, want a lot of numbers and case uses and whatnot. Like, would you mind sharing a little bit like around your challenges with overcoming the objections people were throwing at you at the process, or any takeaways that you could share with others for that piece?
Yeah, good question. I think because I spend quite a lot of time in tech and startup world generally, I kind of also had the skill of having these conversations, especially, like my background is in recruiting, and then generally I was leading product and design recruiting, and this is the people that you work with. They're very precise, specific. They also expect certain ways of communication. And I think by nature, I'm also more direct. I'm not beating around the bush, like I'm saying, and calling a spade a spade.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that helps. But again, like depending on where you are in the industry and who you work with, there is a reason why I selected that niche. So think about those reasons. And you're kind of naturally probably drawn to that because you do have some affinity or some experience or some skills, and you kind of understand that market. And try to reverse things. If you were in their shoes, what would you like to hear? What would click for you if you were in their shoes? And start maybe from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I
That-
also, yeah, like I always feel it's also like the worst thing that can happen around the objections is not even hearing them on a call.
True.
Just making sure there is like space, and you're asking people at the end, you're checking in. So how ready do you feel? What's on your mind? What's do you have any questions or doubts about this? Actually, just being courageous to ask those questions and making sure that you have like 10-15 minutes to hear them out. And if there are some, then to shift to coach them through the objections, then it's it's a really good practice. I always find that the worst thing that can happen if you, by the end of the call, all you get to is let me think about it, and they don't tell you if they're interested, they're not, what their doubts are. If they just walk away with that sentence, majority of the time people say no.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, having objections is good because if you're not having any objections, it means that the person is not really considering anything. If there are objections, that the person is thinking, oh, what about that? And what about that? And oh, I can't really do this. Okay. Like there is
Yeah.
some interest already. So unconsciously, they're already actually selling to themselves because they're already trying to think through different scenarios. So you're there to help them, not to oversell, overcome everything, but find a way. Why is it a yes? And generally, people who have objections, what I see, they already see the value in what it can give them. They're just like little things in life that happen, or maybe they don't have experience with that. So you're there to help them to see a different perspective and look at the same objection from a different angle and uncover the blind spots as well. And I mean, that's pure coaching, right, as well.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
and just some people say like, but what if it's not right for them? I just never handle objections. If I feel like we're not, for whatever reason, we're not a match to work together, I never even go there. I only go there in the service of the potential client if I feel this would truly support their journey. So like I know now from experience of my own practice and working with coaches that 90% of this process can be all about serving people and coaching people into taking courageous steps for their dreams, even in the sales, even before they pay you anything, to work together. So if people wanted to, you can switch 90% of it into service and 10% like admin, but that's it. It can be done. And thank you so much for being such a wonderful example of what's possible, and even without much sales experience coming into it, and just making things happen and having all these amazing clients and recommendations and referrals now as well. Anything you may want to mention to a coach listening to it who are thinking, okay, I might actually be quite interested to get help on this, maybe consider Abundant Coach Accelerate, our program. Anything to people who are sitting on the fence about the program?
Do it. Definitely do it. Even up to date, even when I talk to my potential clients, I always say that I was quite reluctant of investment into some programs like that. And you know that
She gave me the most objection out of anyone I've ever spoken to, almost.
But up to date, it's probably one of the best investments I've ever done in order to accelerate the growth that I wanted to do. Because you work with experienced coaches, the coaches who already have the practice, they're already working as coaches. But if you really want to switch the gears and reconsider certain things and scale, I think you really need support. Like, let's be honest, none of the coaches are born entrepreneurs. It's hard to scale the business. It's hard to understand the structure of what goes into that. So lean into your coaching skills and get help with the structure, with the business, how to run it, some useful pointers. Understanding the niche, maybe you will uncover for yourself that maybe you're not in the right niche, and maybe changing the niche or tweaking the niche might expand your practice a lot. So for me, really, it's been like a big push into the right direction. And there's a lot of it. You're not really surfacing that much, Katrin, the work with the mindset, but actually for me, the mindset shift was really something that really helped.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing this, Alla. It's like, honestly, especially with, how many questions you had before going into the process, and seeing you sharing all of this now and seeing where you evolved your coaching practice to. It's what I do this work for. Thank you for being in this process, for challenging me at the start, and then sharing all these amazing insights with us.
And actually, you know what? It's a very interesting point here, Katrin, is that you've really coached me through the objections, and I didn't feel like you were selling to me. And this is exactly what you're kind of already from the very beginning showing to other coaches, your potential clients, how to actually go about it. And I think even the whole process, even if you're not going to take
all right, guys. Anyone who wants to experience how I handle objections, book a call, but be careful. You might join my program or you might not. We'll see. So anyway, if someone's listening is interested, you can book an appointment with me. We don't have any spaces at the moment, but we have our upcoming cohort in a couple of months, so we can chat about that. In the meantime, you can check out my objection handling technique. And anyone in the tech industry listening in, please reach out to Alla. She's a fantastic coach. You'll be in wonderful, safe hands to develop your career further. All right. Thank you, Alla. Look forward to continuing to follow your journey, rocking it in the corporate world and in your coaching practice.
Thanks so much, Katrin. Thanks for having me here. And yeah.
Bye.
Bye.